You cannot have an authoritarian government. An authoritarian cannot achieve his full potential if you have an independent press, if you have an independent legal system, if you have an independent co-equal branch of government. What does it mean to be an authoritarian? By definition, what it means to be an authoritarian is that you get to do whatever you want. And so, as such, you can't abide there being any competing source of authority in your country. Nobody else who's allowed to state the facts as they see them. No independent source of expertise, which is why authoritarians often go after academia. They often go after universities, higher education, and even regular education. I mean, they can't abide anybody else in their country who's allowed to govern in any way, who has any competing governing authority. They can't abide anybody else who's allowed to produce any form of criticism or oversight or accountability for the dear leader. Right? That's how it works all over the world. That's why authoritarian leaders look like they do the same thing in every country. It's because they do the same thing in every country. And when authoritarians and would-be authoritarians try to get rid of these other important institutions in their society, institutions that do provide these kind of challenges to them, these kind of alternate sources of authority and credibility and truth. When authoritarians try to get rid of those other institutions, then the way you save your democracy, the way you prevent yourself from becoming an authoritarian country, is when the people of that country stand up for those institutions and protect them and don't let the dear leader take them over. And it's crucial that you do it once they're first trying, because once the independence of those institutions is gone, they're gone. Here in the United States, we've watched over the past few years as our version of one of these guys has railed against and tried to delegitimize everybody who has investigated him for anything. So the press is the enemy of the people, scum of the earth. It's all fake news, terrible people. Don't believe any of them. The media is trying to kill you, and we should kill them first. Or the FBI, right? Conservatives, I thought, love the FBI. No, now it's let's defund the FBI. Let's arrest the FBI's leaders. The FBI full of monsters. The whole Justice Department, they're the enemy of the people too. They're corrupt. They're the Gestapo. They're the embodiment of scandal. I mean, this is part of the same playbook these guys all around the world all play from. Nobody's allowed to criticize. Nobody's allowed to tell the truth. Nobody's allowed to investigate. Any entity that does that poses any sort of threat to the dear leader, that entity is to be attacked, delegitimized, if possible, taken over or killed off. We all understand this well now, right? We understand how this works. What we have been watching for next, though, is what comes after that. What's the act of furtherance beyond that? Because it's one thing to come after and criticize and try to delegitimize entities that have investigated you. That is, in fact, something that we've seen before here from the hard right in the United States. At that Republican Women's Convention in 1973, where they all got up in their chairs to scream for Spiro Agnew, he told them while they were screaming, he told them that the Justice Department was corrupt, that he was coming for them, that he'd get those lousy rat bastards. Of course, these guys all criticize the entities that are investigating them. But in the case of Spiro Agnew, I mean, when he did get indicted 11 days after this speech, he did resign. He showed up in court as he was commanded. He pled no contest. He resigned like he said he would in his plea agreement. Yes, he criticized the legal system. Yes, he threatened. But when the weight of it came down on him, he followed the court's orders. He pled the way he said he would plea. The legal system stayed. The legal system stayed. What happens when the dear leader and his party decide that if the legal system's going to be used against the dear leader, then the legal system's got to go? What happens when you take it further? When you take it beyond criticizing the legal system, you take it beyond criticizing those who are investigating you, and you instead decide the system's got to go? I mean, we know what this looks like in other countries. What does it look like here? Would anyone try that here in the United States, in our era, in our time? Well, here's tonight. Here's on the front page of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution right now as we speak. Quote, Republicans demand oversight of prosecutors amid Trump probe. Just part of the lead from reporter Greg Bluestein at the AJC. Quote, the Georgia House tonight approved a measure to create a new state board that could punish or oust district attorneys. The latest step in an ongoing campaign by Republicans to exert oversight over prosecutors they see as skirting their duties. The measure passed the House 98-75 today over the objections of Democrats and prominent prosecutors, among them Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, who is leading an ongoing probe of Donald Trump. Republicans have rallied around the overhaul as a way to rein in, quote, rogue prosecutors. Powerful Republicans have put it on the fast track. The Georgia Senate has passed a similar version of this legislation, and the overall effort is backed by both Governor Brian Kemp and Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. I should mention Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones in Georgia is one of the people who's been notified by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office that he himself is a target for potential prosecution in the investigation into Trump's efforts to throw out the election results in Georgia and have election results in that state falsely declare him the winner. The lieutenant governor is facing potential charges himself in that investigation. He and at least one Republican state senator who's also facing potential charges in that investigation, turns out they are strong supporters of this new measure that would give Republicans in the legislature effectively the power to remove prosecutors that they don't like. Facing criminal charges? How about you vote yourself the power to fire the person who's going to charge you? The former president himself, Donald Trump, as of today, is urging Republicans in Georgia that they must pass this legislation. So Republicans will have the power to remove prosecutors in the middle of their investigations and in the middle of prosecuting any particular case that Republicans might not like for any reason. And to be clear, this has now passed the Georgia legislature as of tonight. A version of this bill passed the state Senate, and the House just passed it tonight. And the Republican governor there, Brian Kemp, he says he will sign it. He is a strong supporter of this. So they're doing it. And I don't know, maybe this would be easier to see if it were happening in another country. And, you know, maybe the leader of their party is still going to face criminal charges in other jurisdictions where he is under criminal investigation, like federally where he's under criminal investigation, or in New York State where he's under criminal investigation. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, none of us know. But in the one place where he is under criminal investigation and his party is in full control of the state government, they have just decided for the first time in that state's history that it is now, for the first time, within their own power to remove prosecutors in the middle of their duties on their own say-so. And yes, this is a story about Georgia, and yes, this is a story about Trump and the potential charges he's facing, but this is a whole new step for us as a country. This is a new thing for us as a democracy. This is not ranting against the investigators. We've seen that before. And calling people names and even picking off individuals in the law enforcement system to try to turn them into enemies. As bad as that all is, we have seen all of that before. This is not just trying to verbally and politically delegitimize the investigating entities. Those are all very bad things to do, but this is more. Sticks and stones, right? But this is dismantling the way the legal system works, so presumably it can no longer work against him. This isn't a resolution denouncing a prosecutor who might bring charges against Donald Trump. This is giving Republicans, this is Republicans voting to give themselves the power to remove a prosecutor who acts in a way that they do not like, as she is on the precipice of potentially bringing charges against him. This passed the Georgia state legislature tonight. It will soon be on its way to the governor. For Georgia, yes, but for us as a country, this is a benchmark moment.